Hey guys, this is Animat from the YouTube channel Electric Dragon 505. Now, what you are about to see here is a collection of cartoons made by Toucan LDM that were created for my documentary series, Animation Lookback, Walt Disney Animation Studios Plus. They were definitely a lot of fun when they were on the show, and hopefully you'll have a lot of fun watching them too, even without the context. So, with that said, enjoy!
Walt got screwed over by his producer, Charles Mintz, by taking Oswald, which was owned by its distributor, Universal Pictures, and most of his animators away from him after refusing a deal that would get him less pay. So while he was making the last batch of Oswald cartoons, Walt and a small group of devoted artists, including his old friend Ub Iwerks, the Disney brothers even went as far as convincing an executive at the Bank of America by showing an unfinished version of the film. But even that wasn't enough to cover the budget. In other words, Pinocchio was supposed to be a douchebag!
What?
Unsurprisingly, Walt did not want that version in his film. This, of course, crushed Kimball's soul. So as a way of saying sorry, Walt gave him the leading animating job on Jiminy. One day, Walt was eating at Chasen's in Hollywood and met famed conductor Leopold Stokowski. The two had a nice chat and Walt brought up his Sorcerer's Apprentice idea, which got Stokowski very intrigued and thus began the collaboration of two entertainment giants. One of whom was considered as one of Disney's top animators, Art Babbitt, noticed the unfairness among all the artists and ultimately decided to join the Screen Cartoonists Guild, where he demanded that the Disney studio would get unionized. Walt, however, did not see any issues with the class distinctions and refused to let the studio be a part of any union. It even got to the point that an actual brawl occurred while they were picketing. So in 1937, Franklin sold the film rights of the book to Walt, and he immediately sprang into action to make Bambi his next animated feature. In fact, he originally wanted Bambi to be his second movie. However, as soon as he got into it, there were several obstacles that even his crew weren't ready to take on. It was very beneficial for both the country and the studio. It was good for the United States so that their relations with the Latin American countries remained strong and not have them switch over to the Nazi Germany side, and it was good for Disney because it gave Walt a form of escape from the strike so that it could be resolved by the time he returned. Which was why there might have been a bit of jealousy towards the guys who got those characters like Lounsbury, Kimball, and Reitherman, along with Disney veteran Norm Ferguson. The result came in a 1939 story reel that Walt did not enjoy. What he saw in that reel were nothing but problems, or at least in terms of making his version of the story. And has amazed guests every day on how a simple ride can always gather such huge lines! There was one sequence meant to establish the romance that was actually close to getting removed from the feature because Walt thought that it would seem a bit ridiculous and hard to imagine how audiences would take it seriously. However, animator Frank Thomas was determined to prove his boss wrong, so much so that he went and fully animated the scene himself.
What was I thinking?
When test screened to Disney, he ended up being impressed and ultimately decided to keep it in the picture. Well, momentarily, during the mid-1950s, Warner Brothers shut down their animation division in order to produce more 3D films, thus resulting Jones to work at Disney for 4 months. But when the whole 3D thing flopped, Warner Brothers brought animation back and Chuck returned to be back with Bugs.
Yeah, ain't we a bunch of stinkers?
Enter Walt's good old friend Ub Iwerks, who invented a new animation technique where he modified a Xerox camera so it can directly transfer the lines in a drawing onto an animation cell.
My God.
Thus saving both time and money by skipping the inking process.
Disney, you nonsensical jerk!
After making their presentation and Walt considered the possibilities on both, the winner is The Sword in the Stone. Because when you think of Baloo from Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, you think of the big gray sloth bear, deep in the jungle of India, mentoring the man cub about the laws of the land. And he's also one heck of a bush pilot. You know, just like what old Rudy always intended. The original story was about a butler and a maid, possibly played by Boris Karloff and Françoise Rosé, who continuously failed to kill the cats of their mistress, since the animals were in front of them in line to inherit her fortune. At the same time, the story also goes into the perspective of the cats, where they get to talk whenever humans are not around, and the setting would be in Paris, France, in the veins of how the London location worked out for 101 Dalmatians. Originally, when plans began to adapt Winnie the Pooh, Walt wanted to have actor and Disneyland performer Wally Bogue to be the voice of Tigger. But after Walt passed, the studio felt like his performance was too zany, even for Tigger, and the role ended up going to Paul Winchell. When Jeffrey started his job and had his first look at what the animators were doing with the Black Cauldron, he was utterly shocked at how dark and violent it was, especially near the end when the Horned King summoned the Cauldron-born army. He knew that this moment would horrify kids and families, so he demanded them to edit out certain moments to calm things down. The crew was reluctant to do so, so Jeffrey brought the movie to the editing bay and edited the film himself. Now, keep in mind that editing has a completely different definition in animation, and this was Jeffrey's first time being involved with an animated feature. So when he said he was going to edit the feature himself, what was actually happening was that Katzenburg was messing up the whole picture without any idea what he was doing!
Jeffrey!
You know what they say? One must become the enemy!
Come on now, let's be mature about this.
When the film was released on November 18th, 1988, it wasn't alone. On the exact same day as Oliver and Company, Spielberg and Bluth put out their latest animated feature, The Land Before Time. It was a moment when Disney had to finally prove their worth by directly facing their competition. So who came out victorious from this epic animated battle? Well, at the box office, Oliver managed to beat out Littlefoot domestically with $53 million, but The Land Before Time did get the upper hand with the worldwide number, even if Oliver got re-released to boost the total to $74 million. As for which movie critics preferred,
Quick, give that jerk over there 2 thumbs down. His film contains very frightening scenes that would haunt my nightmares. Think of the children. Mother? No, wait!
there was no contest. After one test screening of the unfinished film where children got a little restless during, Katzenburg demanded to cut out the song Part of Your World because of the poor reception it got from kids. The entire crew, including Ron, John, and Howard, begged Jeffrey to keep it in, as it was Ariel's big moment to let her heart out to express what she wanted the most. But he reluctantly refused to listen. But then came Glenn Keane, one of the supervising animators of Ariel. He advocated the hardest to keep the scene and give it another chance. Somehow, Keane succeeded in convincing Katzenburg, and after another screening, now fully animated and colored, the song ultimately stayed. However, transitioning to computer to recreate the magic that was done before with cells and the multi-plane camera was certainly no easy task. Along with collaborating with Pixar to include some CGI, The animators worked tirelessly and stressfully with the new system to simultaneously learn how it looks and use those new techniques to make the movie look good without passing the deadline. The directors had to learn that the hard way when Ashman thought about a tragic opening that showed how the prince was cursed and turned into a beast. For Wise and Truesdale, they cannot take the idea of starting the movie off with an angry little brat turning into a monster seriously. So when they confronted Howard about his idea,
The backstory's
let's just say that it was the last time anyone ever confronted him on an idea of his. While everyone was heartbroken at the loss, Jeffrey Katzenburg also saw this as an opportunity. He always wanted to be Michael Eisner's second-in-command and have Wells's position. The only problem was that Eisner was always hesitant about the idea. But now that Frank was out of the picture, Jeffrey was ready to do whatever it took to get that president position. And when going on press tours talking about the movie, not only was he promoting the picture, but he was also promoting himself to have the press portray him as if he was the next Walt Disney. Now, his relationship with Eisner and Roy E. Disney was already sour at that point, but his promotional stunts with The Lion King were the final straw for them.
What were you thinking out there, Jeffrey? I don't understand why you have to push everybody against the wall to get that president job when Frank didn't even die that long ago. Don't you even care that he's gone? You know, I could have made you president if you waited a little longer. But now the last person I want to give this position is to an egotistical, stressful, and greedy individual like you. Now don't ever ask me for the job again, and get back to work.
When Michael made it clear that he would never get the job, even if he was promised to in the past, Jeffrey knew that he had no future at Disney, and not long after The Lion King's release, he resigned and sued the company for money he was owed at the time.
You haven't seen the last of me! You'll pay for this! You'll all pay! I'm telling you guys, Pocahontas is a home run. It's basically West Side Story with American Indians. No, it's Romeo and Juliet with American Indians. It's a hit! It's a hit, I tell you! It has hit written all over it! Lion King, on the other hand, I want to say it's kind of an experiment. I mean, we don't really know if anybody truly wants to see it.
Hate to say it, but don't count your eggs before they hatch, Jeffrey. Also, are we even ready to represent Native Americans again in our animated films? I mean, the last time we've done it, things didn't—
Hey! That was a different time! Besides, there's no need to worry. I'm positive that this film will be our next Beauty and the Beast. Only this time, we will win that Oscar! I can see it now. No! I can feel it now. Oh yeah. Oh, baby, you're feeling fine. Oh, come here, you! It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Should we stop this?
Nah, let him have his moment just a little bit. Okay, that's our cue. Let's get out of here.
Oh yeah, you like that, Lincoln?
Originally, Stephen Schwartz was supposed to develop the songs for the feature. However, he was called by Jeffrey Katzenburg to work at his new studio DreamWorks to make the songs for an animated adaptation of the Book of Exodus called The Prince of Egypt. As much as the heads at Disney begged him not to go, Schwartz went to DreamWorks anyways, and the songs he did write for the film, like China Doll, Written in Stone, and Destiny, were inevitably scrapped when the crew made some changes to the story. As for Tantor, Woody Allen was supposed to voice him, but Jeffrey Katzenburg once again swiped him away from Disney after making a deal for DreamWorks to distribute his next pictures and be the voice of the lead in their animated film, Ants. Ultimately, the elephant was voiced by Wayne Knight.
Absolutely, I'd love to voice the funny cartoon elephant for your film. No need to fear, as this is a job for
The Wayne Knight!
The one who first thought about the piece was actually not from any of the filmmaking team, but rather, it was Michael Eisner, who got the idea after attending his son's graduation, since the piece is known by many as a staple for those ceremonies. As for what would be represented visually, Eisner thought about presenting a large wedding featuring all the Disney princesses with their lovers, each carrying their future children as they say their I do's. For the animators, this was absolutely horrifying. Because not only would it look like the characters were a part of some freaky religious cult ritual, but also, if Disney presented all the princesses pregnant next to their true loves, then it would lead the audience to think about the process of how they were, how can I put this? Getting knocked up.
We did more than just kiss. It's clear he didn't miss.
Also, just a reminder, most of the Disney princesses are below the age of 18.
Ultimately, Michael agreed to scrap it, but still really wanted them to use the piece.
Oh my! Ariel? Yeah, it's too late from our end, unfortunately. Coming soon to own on video and Disney DVD. Good luck with this one, parents.
Walt Disney Pictures presents Dinosaurs! Dinosaurs!
In Verhoeven and Tippett's original version, the story had a darker tone and told in the style of a nature documentary, where a Styracosaurus named Woot and his little lemur friend named Suri try to survive and escape the wrath of a Tyrannosaurus Rex named Grozny.
Arrgh! It's feeding time! Prepare to die.
At the end, the two big dinos fight, with Woot being the winner, but it didn't really matter because the big asteroid came by anyways and made all the dinosaurs extinct.
Wait, what? Boom!
Leaving Suri and all the other lemurs as the only survivors.
Do 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 do.
And Tono and Stitch, a 2020 manga where Stitch finds himself in feudal Japan and teams up with a warlord.
Miga na la crista!
Quite a contrast to the little girls he usually hangs out with, but whatever satisfies his chaotic urges. With computer animation taking over, Disney was viewed as old-fashioned, and not only were they failing to impress audiences, but it was starting to literally cost them as well. And if they ever hoped to survive in this new fully digital world, they would have to learn to adapt and start making their own fully computer animated features, meaning that they would have to make a lot of sacrifices along the way, including hand-drawn animation.
Oh, hand-drawn, you will be gone, you're clearly outdated. Read my lips and come to grips with the reality. We must let go of the past, since pencils are not meant to last. Say hello to the future with CG! So hand-drawn tends to pass on all of our profits. But stay calm, we will move on, take it from me. We'll make the next CG star. We won't even need Pixar. Computers will make our films a real trip. They'll no longer take a terminal dip. The rest it's golden, it has been chosen. Disney will be in 3D. Whoopee! So long! No more hand-drawn!
Roy argued that Eisner was spiraling out of control and is consequentially destroying the company from within. Sure, he had a few wins during the early 2000s, like with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, but everything else he did in almost every division was just a complete disaster. ABC was on the brink of collapsing in itself, the theme parks became a joke after the embarrassing opening of Disney's California Adventure and the never-ending failures of Disneyland Paris, and his mismanagement has caused the company to turn into a rapacious and soulless conglomerate. But possibly his worst offense for Roy was his poor handling of the animation division. A good example of style over realism is with the frog forms of the leads, where they originally looked more like real frogs. Since frogs aren't necessarily the most attractive looking creatures,
That's what you think, buddy.
Oh yeah, work it, frog, work it. Strike that pose, oh yeah.
they had to resort to a similar tactic used when the old animators had to design Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio, where they only used minor aesthetics of the animal, like the shapes, so that audiences would believe that they are frogs mainly because they say so. In the summer of 2011, they had to pick either the grand finale of the 10-year saga, where the boy wizard and his fellow students at Hogwarts face off against Lord Voldemort and his legion of Death Eaters in the ultimate battle of good and evil wizardry. Or they could watch Pooh and Friends fight Eeyore's tail. Come on, everybody! Let's see what funny things we can put on Eeyore's butt to make it seem like a tail. And who knows, maybe Pooh might find some honey along the way. Oh, let me tell ya, that summer was filled with tough decisions like this. There were those who couldn't get enough of Frozen and never stopped singing the songs, and those who couldn't stand hearing them over and over and over to the point that they were ready to declare war on Arendelle.
That's it! I can't take it anymore! That queen's going down! Who's with me?
I am!
Count me in.
We'll show her who's boss!
Let's get her!
Yes, I'd like to purchase 5 plane tickets to Norway, please.
There she is! Let's get her!
Can't I just relax for one day without having to deal with this nonsense? That's the 14th angry mob within the past few hours. Make that 15!
But then there were John Lasseter's replacements as Chief Creative Officer. For Pixar, they assigned director Pete Docter to take charge, and at Walt Disney Animation Studios, they gave the position to Jennifer Lee, which for her was a lot more stressful to receive than expected. Not only because it was a major position to take on itself, but it was also an additional responsibility for her at Disney, since at the time, she already had her hands full with being a single mother and being the director of a highly anticipated sequel, Frozen. While the deal for the budget was agreed for $30 million, it's no surprise that the scale of what the team wanted to accomplish ended up going beyond that, where the movie's price tag ultimately went up to around $50 to $70 million. As much as he believed in the film, Michael Eisner was ready to shut down the whole thing before it ended up costing too much money. But after a heated debate, then head of Walt Disney Pictures, Jeffrey Katzenburg, managed to convince him to keep the film alive, mainly because of how it would be worth it for Disney to have this big collaboration project with Steven Spielberg.
You are one lucky rabbit.
I would say that title belongs to Oswald, but when's the last time anyone talked about him? These include Brer Rabbit's gambling addiction being the cause of all his problems, a plot where he convinces Brer Fox to ride him like a horse to a party, another where the rabbit disguises himself as a ghost to scare off Brer Bear, and Uncle Remus himself telling the animals to build a church so that predator and prey can be at peace with one another.
Alrighty, that looks pretty good. Now just put in the final touches, make some minor edits. I need to stop talking to myself while editing. And, oh wait, no. Okay, and, oh wait, no, not yet. Okay, and done. Well, my work here is done. Thank you for having me on board, Matt.
And now that we have seen all these great animated moments, I just want to go and take a bit of time to give out a major thanks to Logan for all his amazing work that he has provided for Animation Lookback Walt Disney Animation Studios Plus. I am very well aware that animation, even stuff like this, can take a lot of time to make. This was something that even I used to do in some of the older animation lookbacks, like for Don Bluth or even Pixar, where I would go and make these kind of cutout animations for like these little cartoon bits, for like these little side gags. And even I am aware that they would go and take several hours just to create a few seconds of one little joke. And in recent years, this was like a magic that was a bit lost in Animation Lookback. But then suddenly, Logan would go and contact me to go and actually collaborate on Animation Lookback Disney, and if he would like to go and contribute some of his animations to go and incorporate onto the series, I decided to go and say, hell yeah. And we just really went off from there. And for me personally, what I find to be the true magic of these animations, it's not just the fact that they were made specifically for my series, and it's not even just the factor that these cartoons alone are just fantastic. They were beautifully made, and I remember when I first saw them, I told Logan that, like, this is not meant for the internet. Like, we were pretty much reaching to, like, professional television quality. But anyways, with that said though, the true magic that I do find in these cartoons for Animation Lookback Walt Disney Animation Studios Plus is the fact that it's not just that it came from one great animator. It's the fact that it came from an entire team of people who helped collaborate in order to make these cartoons that would end up becoming massive highlights throughout the series. It's not just Logan, but several other artists and several other voice actors, and even a few recognizable voice actors also came on board to help contribute to the series. And it was just phenomenal to just see people all working together and putting their great talents for something that I just wanted to do as my own project. And honestly, the idea of so many great people and so many talented people came in to come on board and to go help me out to share this vision of telling the story of Walt Disney Animation Studios is something that I could never have imagined, and even far surpass my wildest dreams, in order to turn Animation Lookback Disney Animation Plus into what I consider right now is my masterpiece. Like, I'm still gonna keep on making videos and stuff like that, but it's gonna be hard to top what I have achieved with this series right here. Like, I'll definitely consider it my magnum opus. And I'll definitely miss working on this series, and I'll definitely miss collaborating with Logan to keep on making these cartoons. But this little video right here is just a little way for me to say thank you so much for all the great work you have done, and I definitely wish you the best of luck in your future pursuits, whether it be as an animator or whatever projects that you may work on in the future. So, with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes!